Welcome, my name is Bill Fox. Today we will be looking at design considerations of workflow approval. Our objectives for this session are to review the profile document and some of the process settings that are contained in it. This will be in somewhat more detail than in the last video that we did. We're going to take a look at workflow approval in the Notes Designer client. We're going to assume that you have a working knowledge of the Notes Designer client and of the basis of creating forms and working with them in the Designer client. If you don't have this knowledge, then there are many courses online that you can access, and we would recommend a few if you wish to contact us. We'll take a look at what are the required elements in every form that is designed to be used with workflow approval. Some of those required elements are some subforms that are included with the demo application. We'll look at the methods of selecting approvers at runtime using a computed field and also as using a query save event. We'll look at some demo forms and how the various elements are brought together. Then we'll create a new form from scratch and show you how simple it is to be able to add workflow approval to any form that you create. We'll then look at the other transaction script library, which is a powerful tool to be able to control some of the events that are happening within workflow approval, and we'll show you the basis for using that. So let's get on with it. Let's take a look at the demo. Here we are in the demo in the Notes client, and we're going to take a look at the basic authorization profile to begin with. And we talked about some of these settings on the General tab in our last session, so I'm not going to spend much time in going through and reviewing them. I want to first of all go to the Technical tab. Here you enter in the name of the mail form you want to use to mail out, and we'll take a look at that a little more later. The website address, how are people going to access it if this is going out to web-based clients. It also, notice here that we've hidden the approvers list, the approvers comments, and the cycle settings. They're all set to no. If you click on the little question mark, you'll get context help that will help you determine how you want to configure your user interface. Typically, you would have this set to yes, but in the demo, in this demo, we left it as set to no, and also typically you would set the approver's comments to yes, but I'm not going to in this case. They would be just left blank. So I'm just going to close this one. And I'm going to go to the major expense process here and look at it. And again, I'm going to look at the post cycle at this point. In here, at this point, I've specified a custom transaction called major post approval that will be executed when a document created with this profile has completed the approval process. This transaction here will be handled in the other transactions script library, which I'll show you later. But at this point in time, this is how you would specify. So let's just close this one. And let's go over to one of the other ones. And I'm going to go into the post cycle. So on this one here, I'm going to treat it a little differently. I'm going to say start another cycle. I'm going to change the profile, change the form name. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reuse the same document, and I'm also going to tell it to automatically submit it when it's created. So in this case, if these were the settings, what would happen is when a document created with the authorization parallel is completed, in other words, totally approved, then it would start another cycle and it would change the profile to the XYZ authorization profile, change the form, reuse the same document, and kick it off and start it automatically. This is how you would link multiple processes together. In this form, it's fairly straightforward. If the process is more complex, then you would use what we had looked at in the major expense and create a post approval custom transaction, and then in the other transaction you can do just about anything. So I'm going to close this. And so those are the key issues with the profile document. So let's just stop here and move over and take a look at everything in the designer. Here we are in the Notes designer client. And so the first thing we're going to do is just take a look at the basic authorization form that we had looked at previously. And it's pretty simple and straightforward. Your form may be more complicated, but that's what your application has to do. The first issue is that there must be a field called AC profile name on your form, and it must default to a valid profile name. This gets this document linked to a profile. There's other fields on here, but they're not really required. In addition, there is a subform called the approval cycle subform that also needs to be placed on your form. Apart from that, everything else is under your control, and you make it look and do what you want it to do. So let's just close this basic one, and let's take a look at the dynamic form. Here we see that, again, AC profile name here defaults to the XYZ authorization dynamic profile name, but there is another field on here called AC approvers default pre. This is a predefined field that you can place the names of approvers in, and in this case what it's going to do is it says if AC action is submit, in other words, if this document is being submitted, then do a DB lookup to the rules database using the department as the key and return column 2, which happens to be a list of approvers. It then returns that, and this process functions then with those names as the approver rather than the names that are in the profile document. Really very simple, very straightforward. Again, notice that it has the approval cycle subform included on this form. So we're just going to close this, and I'm going to move to one of the other forms as we move along here. So I'm just going to take a look at this particular form, which is the uh, one of the basic ones on the process. And what we can do is add to the query save some Lotus script, which can do basically anything that you need or want it to do. You can do complex lookups. You can do decision points that will determine multiple directions that the form might take. This starts to get into a little more complex uh, Lotus script and would require a fairly detailed working knowledge of Lotus script and how workflow approval functions. However, with a little work and a little training, you can do all kinds of pretty significant and interesting possibilities. So let's move on with our demo. So let's take a look at the subform that we referred to earlier, and they're under the shared elements. And if we open the subforms, you'll see that there are quite a number here. This is the primary one, the AC Approver subform, and it contains additional subforms within it and a number of fields. This is the basic engine that keeps the process run, makes the process run. Notice that there's all of the action buttons are in this subform so that they all go together as a single package. All you need to do is to on any form that you wish to create, just include that subform. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a new form, and I'm just going to call it my first form, and we're going to create it. Now I'm going to create a field, and I'm going to call the field AC profile name. If you remember that was a required field on the form, and I'll just put a label in front of it so you know what it is. And I'll put a couple of line breaks in there just to be able to do that. And what I'm going to go to here, and I'm just going to set that to be hidden all the time because we don't want the user changing the value on that. I'm going to create a field, and we'll just call it process and create a field input for it, and we'll call it process for lack of a better name. It's just going to be a text field, and so there, and I'll just create some address fields here, and I'll just say city, and create field, call it city. I'm not going to put any fancy edit control or anything like that. I'll give it an address field, and I'll call that address, and we'll call something, we'll get a phone number. And there we go. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and I'm going to create a resource. I'm going to insert a subform, and we're going to take the approval cycle subform and insert it there. Now, if I just simply take this and I'm going to just take a look at it. Oh, I didn't properly specify the profile name, so that can't do the job. Good idea that we do that. Show that. So we're going to make this WFS authorization and save that. These are some of the things that in a quick and easy you forget to do, and so okay, so we're going to stop there and come back. So I see that I've got the wrong name in here, so it's supposed to be XYZ authorization. I'm going to save this. Now I'm going to view it in the Notes client. Come back over here, and there it is. We ask for a process name. I can say and now if I can submit this for approval and it will go through. I'm just going to close it and not save it at this point in time. Come back over here to the Notes client, and there it is. That's my first form. Really simple, not much to it. Your form may be much more complicated than that, but that becomes your part of the design. I want to take a look at the in the code. In the script libraries and the code AC script library AC other transactions. Now in here, notice that I've selected a case called transdoc AC action. This, if it working with a major profile and it has been saved, it will create this kind of a transaction. Now in here, I've written some Lotus script. It's going to create a new transaction document. It's going to take a look and build a list of final approvers, process it. If the final approvers is null, then it's going to return false because it has to have some final approvers. Sets the profile name, sets the process name, sets the draft, and sets it for a submission. Takes the date being submitted to being right now. Creates a history document. Clears a bunch of fields. Sets the a default pre to the final approvers, resets the profile, computes the form, saves the form, and then finally completes the transaction, sets other transactions to true, and away it goes. Whatever action has been specified in this block of code will have been executed, and in this case a new document or a new process will have been defined for the current document, and it will kick it off and get it going. Now, as you can see, this is a fairly involved piece of code. It could be way more complex than this as well. So that concludes this part of the demo. So let's just close it out. So if you want more detail on how to create a profile document, go to the previous demo. You can download and install the demo on your server and start to work with it from there, or contact us. Our website is wfsystems.ca. You can email me at bill_fox at wfsystems.ca, or you can give me a call at 1-780-504-0798. We're in Greenwich Mean Time -7 or Mountain Time in North America. So we're glad that you could join us today and work through this process with us. I trust that it has been of an advantage to you. And please feel free to contact us if you require further help. Thanks for being with us, and we'll look forward to talking to you again.